All right, I think we'll begin now. Good afternoon to everyone who has joined here for the off-campus talk presented by the Student Academic Cell. Today, we are going to have three speakers amongst us who all have been able to secure an internship uh, from outside the campus, and hopefully, they'll be able to share some insights with you on how to develop the skills and how to approach these companies. I would also like to remind everyone that we'll be having a Google form shared periodically in the chat box where you can ask questions, and we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the talk. So, without further ado, let's proceed with it. Our first speaker is going to be Atishay Jain. Uh, he's pursuing MSc Economics and BE Computer Science. Uh, he got a product management intern at Bureau. That is his off-campus internship. He's also the president of Share Bits Pilani, the consulting club over here. He has been a summer intern in ABC Consultants, and his current campus commitments are Economics and Finance Association, Share, and the Wall Street Club. So over to you, Atisha.
Okay. Hi guys. So I'll just share my slides quickly. Aryan, are you able to see my slides?
Yes, I'm able to see.
Okay, so hi everyone. I'm Atishay, and today I'll be sharing my experiences in college and how I've been doing my internship since my first year and how my experience has been till now. I will discuss about finding and bagging off campus opportunities specifically, especially in the product domain and several other strategy roles, which are essentially operator roles in themselves. So I'll discuss more about these roles in the coming few slides. Here is a bit about the roles. First, this meme. So all the operator roles and product ownership roles, essentially, you have to get work done, but you don't have any power to ask anyone to do their job, right? And that is the tricky part about the roles. So in any business, generalist roles like these are very different from the specialist roles that we see day to day and that we are much aware of, wherein you are specifically involved in one domain and you have responsibilities which are limited by the scope of your job description. But in other strategy and operations kind of roles, the responsibilities in startups are usually multifold because these roles in themselves are a function which essentially aids you into helping other functions and helping the overall business grow. So first of all, I would like to discuss about what kinds of roles are out there, especially in the startup ecosystem in India. So first, there are roles which are marketing and sales related. By the way, if I'm not audible or if you have any doubts in between, feel free to just raise your hand and I'll get back to you, or you can ask them at the end also. Um, am I audible, Aryan? Just reconfirming.
Yes, you're audible. And we'll have for everyone, we'll have the Q&A section in the end. We'll keep sharing the link with you in the chat box for the people who have joined recently. So you can direct the question at any speaker, or you can keep it open for anyone. So we'll look at that into the end.
Sure, sure. So coming back to the kinds of roles, first we have marketing and sales related roles. No matter how crude it sounds, but these are some of the best roles when you talk about generalist roles in startups because apart from product development and sales, there is essentially nothing else which a business does. Any business is just about giving a product or service in exchange of money. And sales and marketing are the people who are responsible for getting that product out there in the market. So these roles can be termed as business development or growth in general in the current scenario. Business development is related more on the channel expansion side, What I mean by channel expansion is, for example, if I'm selling a product on Amazon, and in the coming 6 months, I decide to sell that product on, say, Swiggy, Instamart, or say a Snapdeal, for example. That is known as channel expansion. So this is a subcategory of business development itself. And by growth, I essentially mean sales. So in a B2C company, growth is all about targeting new target audiences, or getting into a new geography, getting into a new demographic, or tapping into the current existing user base and increasing the top line. Top line here means revenue, and bottom line means the margin which you make on the product you sell. The second kind of roles are strategy and operations role. These can be called as founder's office, chief of staff, revenue operations, and business operations in general. So, founder's office and chief of staff, they are interchangeable in a lot of places these days, wherein you are essentially directly answerable to the founders or the CXO office suite of the startup. So whatever work is of the founders, but they don't have the bandwidth to do that, you are in charge of that work, right? So that's about founders office and chief of staff. Revenue operations and business operations are again kind of intersecting in nature, wherein the skills you require are basically like good grasp over tools like Excel, SQL, and you are in charge of publishing the revenue numbers monthly or fortnightly in some companies. You are in charge of making the investor presentations, and a lot of times after 1 or 2 months of experience in revenue operations and business operations role, you usually become a part of the founder, which was similar in my case as well at Power of 91, which I'll be discussing later on. So these two roles which I just talked about, they're more focused towards selling the product or service you create. The third kind of roles are product development roles, where you are responsible for creating the core service or the core product of the company you're working for. So these kind of roles come as product management roles, user experience research, user research. Then we have program management or project management, which is essentially managing the product development lifetime of a particular, say, feature. So program management essentially is, suppose I have 10 software developers with me, and I have my work defined for the next 30 days. How many hours each software engineer is going to take on a particular feature, and how am I optimizing for the sprints. Sprints are buckets of feature development in any tech based company, and a program manager or a project manager is the head of the sprint, who plans the sprints and divides work. The fourth kind of roles are research and development, wherein you do market research, you analyze your currently existing user base and product line, and based on that, you suggest and strategize the go to market strategy of new features. So herein, in your second or third year, you'll have to face a hard choice of whether you want to go into these kinds of roles or not. So here I have written down some parameters which would help you decide if you are a fit or the role is a fit for you. First, generalist versus specialist roles. So as I mentioned before, if you want your work to be very defined and you need to have complete clarity of what you're doing, then specialist roles are for you. For example, if you are a software engineer, you know that day to day these are your responsibilities, and it would be easier for you to show, say, value addition or the work you have done in specialist roles as compared to generalist roles. Because in generalist roles, your work is not only dependent on yourself, sorry, your work is not only dependent on yourself, but it's dependent on others, with which with whom you have to collaborate and get the deliverables delivered, and then you show your proof of work. But then also, generally, it's about giving credit to other people and getting the job done. That's the crux of generalist roles. And then, as I mentioned, ability to do work versus ability to get work done. So many people that I've seen, they're very good at doing work, but when it comes to getting some tangible output out of other people, they they often fail. So I'm not saying one is better than the other, but if you're better at managing people and you have the ability to get work done from other people, nothing better than that, right? The third one is constantly building up on what you do. So here in generalist roles, you will often see a trajectory of growth wherein your responsibilities will keep on shifting. So, for example, first you're in charge of a feature, then you become in charge of a page, then you become in charge of the whole subcategory of the product, then you become a lead product manager and you manage several other APMs under you. So this is the trajectory of growth. Even in specialist roles, what happens is first you're a software engineer. After some years of experience, if you're able to manage teams, then you become a engineering manager. So managing people is a trajectory which comes with specialist roles as well. So it's like it's not right to think that if you want to get into management roles you have to start with these generalist roles. That's also not true. Then fourth, last but not least, is the ability to deal with ownership and accountability. So I'll take a founder's office example in this case. So it is a double-edged sword, right? Wherein you are rewarded for the good work you do, but you're also punished very hardly for the work you fail at. Or if you underperform, you're directly answerable to the founders themselves. There is no chain of command which follows, and you can't hide behind someone else and shift the blame to someone else ki isne kaam nahi kiya to I'm not able to deliver, because at the end of the day it's your responsibility because you're in the founder's office and you need to get shit done. So if you're able to deal with the fact that the rewards will be as high as the punishments in these roles, then I think you might be a fit. Moving on. So here I have tried to summarize my college experience across the 4 years. Currently, I'm in my fourth year, and I would like to mention what I did and what I suggest you to do, which I did not do, and in all the spanning across the 4 years. So beginning with my first year. So first thing first, in the first year after your 11th and 12th, you actually start interacting with people who are doing different things. In 11th, 12th, usually you're surrounded by people who are all chasing the same goal, which is say JEE, BitSat, or whatever. So this is the first time when you get to know people, you get to see clubs of people, groups of people who have different kinds of interests. And this is the time where you decide which bucket you fall in. And I would say it's a really good, strategy to apply to different clubs, meet as many people as you can. And then second point, you actually get a taste of work that you do. For example, you get assignments in clubs, or you do some freelancing project, or at this point if you're able to get an internship, be it unpaid or paid, whatever. In your first year it's important to get a sense of ownership of any work, because till now you've just been studying. This is the first time you're actually generating tangible monetary value for someone. So that is what I mean by getting a taste of work. Then I started eliminating my options, and that's what I suggest everyone do, because in your first year, no matter what your branch is, you have a plethora of options with you, and the more options you have, the less focus you're able to give on each of the option. So I would suggest from your first year only, at least start eliminating options if you're not able to select what you want to do. The third one is I try to figure out how much I care about academics, because this also falls under eliminating options only, because sooner or later you have to realize that how much focus you're able to give to academics. because they usually take up a majority of the bandwidth in a college student's life. But in bits, I would say the zero attendance policy is a real advantage to us, wherein if we don't if we decide that we don't care about academics that much, that I don't want to keep a 9 plus CG throughout my college life, I can uh, like comfortably ignore some parts of it. I can comfortably skip majority of the classes, I would say. I mean, just a personal advice, but yeah. Then in brackets are some of the advice that I got from my seniors, but I didn't. I mean, and I would suggest that you guys also start in your first or second year. So, first is start coding any language you want. It's always helpful. It's a necessary skill these days in any job. You can learn Python, it's one of the most general languages out there. Or you can learn some actual skill which entails graphic designing, or you can just learn, say, SQL, or you can become good at Excel. You can do some courses. So first year is the perfect time to do that, maybe the summer of the first year, or the time between your first year and second year. And then once you find out the group of people that you have found, which have similar interest to you, you should constantly keep in touch with them and stick with them, because you will see across your 4 years these people will grow with you and they'll help you grow. For example, uh, do we have any questions here?
Atisha, everyone has been put on mute except the hosts and the co-hosts, so the questions will come in later.
Okay, sure. Yeah, I'll be a little bit quick. So yeah, coming on to the second year, I this is the time where actually started looking for internships, because our second year was online and I had enough time on my hands to actually look for an internship and get some actual work experience. So this is the time I started working with Powerhouse 91, which is essentially an e-commerce brand aggregator based on the Thrasio model, and they are the first ones to implement the Thrasio model in India. So I joined Powerhouse 91 as a brand analysis intern, and therein worked for about 1 year, 13 months in particular. And then in the end, I was a part of the founder's office. More on that later on. The third advice in your second year would be to start taking ownership, because this is the time wherein if you're a part of some club, you'll be in charge of the first year rights also, and you'll get to learn how to get work done. Then the last point, I would say in your internships in your second year, or even in the beginning of your third year, you should not focus too much on the stipend or the pay of that internship. Instead, one, you should do it for your resume points, and second, you should do it to learn how to work and how to take accountability of the work. And this is the time wherein in your internships connections outside college start forming, because in your first year you were interacting with the fourth year seniors. They're now working in the industry, or if you're doing some internships, 99% of the people will be outside your college. So this is a good time to actually form those connects and leverage them later on to get an internship or get a job per se. In my third year, I was majorly involved in my PORs at Share and Wall Street. Share mein, I was the president, and Wall Street mein, I was the chief investment officer. So my majority of the time was devoted to growing these clubs, and this was the first time I was actually heading something, and the growth of a particular organization or a club was directly or indirectly my responsibility. And this was a really good learning experience for me. Then in my third year was the time where I perfectly made peace with the fact that acing academics, getting a very good CG was not my cup of tea. And I also realized that it's not a deal breaker if like CG is not a big deal breaker in your professional journey if you don't want to sit in campus placements per se. Then, as I mentioned in the second year experience, this was the time when I started leveraging my previous work experiences. I started leveraging my connections to get interviews at new companies, better companies, or if I want to explore something different, it usually is the case that you know someone who knows someone, or you know someone directly, and that is a great place to be in. And then by the time my third year ended, I like I started building basic product management understanding, because while exploring these fields, I thought that product management would be a really good fit for me, and I actually like doing that sort of work. So in the summer between my third 2 and 4 months, I started working for a company called Embark. I went to Bangalore for about 3 to 4 months. I figured out that product management is something I could continue after college, and that is what the current plan is. And in my fourth year, I in your fourth year, essentially, I think it is a time to find a place and people where you directly interact with them and get constant feedback on your work, because this is the time where you start perfecting the work you do, or start taking ownership of your deliverables. And you also need to keep in check the quality of the work you deliver. So that happens only through feedback. I would suggest that in your first internship, every 15 to 20 days you should have a, say, 50-minute or a 1 hour session with your manager, just asking for feedback. I did this during the last 2 3 weeks. What do you think about the work I did? How did you analyze it, or how can I make it better? So yeah. So this is a perfect example of how product managers overcomplicate simple things. So I have tried to create a flowchart of how to find an off-campus internship. So on the right hand side here are the prerequisites which I would say you should have before searching for an internship or before searching for work. So herein, I have tried to create three buckets, which are awareness, skills, and connections. So, in awareness, you should first be aware of who you are and what are your interests. So, first, roles of interest. And then I would say a crucial part of awareness is reading up about the industry, reading up what new fundraisers are happening, which company raised recent funding. Because what happens is, usually, if I raise funding in January, I would not publicize it till, say, February, mid, or March beginning, because it takes time to absorb the funding. And just as soon as the funding round ends, companies are looking for fresh hires and internship interns. Also, the openings are in abundance during the funding rounds, during the closure of the funding rounds of a company. And then the last point in awareness is the sector or industry which you're interested in. So for these 2 points, I would suggest a few sources. Inc 42 is one, then Your Story is one, wherein you get constant funding news. The Ken is one. And once you start, actively reading articles on these websites, you would get more involved in the industry as well. And later on, as a second layer, you can follow like certain people on Twitter or LinkedIn. So that is a place wherein you are constantly updated with what's happening in the industry. Second is the skills. So soft skills, they come through work only. Soft skills are essentially how you talk, how you present yourself, how you manage your time, how you deliver your work. And then comes the hard skills. For example, if you want to go into an operations role, a very valuable hard skill would be having a good grasp on SQL or Excel per se. So these are the things which are the prerequisites. And third is the connections, which you would obviously have. And connections can be anything from friends to family, or your past work, your manager, the founder of the startup you were previously working at, so on and so forth. Then on the left hand side, we actually come to how we find an internship. So, first, we will talk about the top-down approach. So, assuming you have no clue, you don't know where to start at, right? So, this is an effective strategy for me, which I follow to cold mail or to essentially find companies where I should apply. So, what I do is I try to make a list of early stage venture capitals in India. And for example, there's Bloom Venture Capital. So if you go in on the website of a venture capital, you usually find a portfolio or our company's page on their website. And there you get a list of companies and a small description about them. So what I would suggest doing is just go through the list of companies and shortlist the names of companies which you find interesting or exciting and which you think are innovative or you would be a good fit in. And then go to that company's website, visit their career section page. Then if there is an intern opening on the website, you directly apply. And if not, you can connect with the founders or the head of departments where you want to apply on LinkedIn or Twitter, and try to find their emails through LinkedIn Chrome extensions like Rocket Leads, etc., wherein you directly get the mails of someone in the company, and then you can directly cold mail them. And and this is just general expansion of what I talked before. If you get selected, you prepare for the interview. If not, you can just keep a track of the company and where it's going and repeat the process all over again. And it's also a good strategy to follow up 2 times on the mails you send. If you're not receiving reply, I would suggest you do it on a weekly manner. So if you send a mail on Tuesday and you didn't receive a reply for 1 week, it makes sense to follow up again. And maximum you can do it one more time, but I won't suggest following up more than 2 times because that bugs people, right? And herein you have some shortcuts also. So you can skip browsing portfolio VC portfolios and shortlisting companies if you're already aware of the companies which have raised recent rounds of funding through the news articles that you read and you are interested in. You can directly visit the career section of the page or cold mail the founders. Or a very good way is to get internships through your connections, because therein you skip the initial friction of actually reaching out and cold mailing and all that. You can directly skip to the task part or the interview part, which cuts down the process lifetime by half. So yeah, moving on. So my internship and work experiences, I have done two major internships in my college life. Powerhouse 91, where I worked for around 1 year, and the second is Bureau, where I'm currently working, and I've been working since the past 8 months. So I'll start with Powerhouse 91. Powerhouse 91, I joined just after this seed round, which is first or second round of funding for startups. I stayed there for 1 year and left right before the Series A. So this is usually the 1 to 10 phase of a startup, where ideation to seed is usually the 0 to 1, and seed to Series A is, I would say, 1 to 10. This was the time in my second year where I actually gained hands-on experience as an operator working directly with the founders and investors. As I mentioned, in Powerhouse 91, my trajectory was the first 3 months I was working at analyzing brands off of Amazon, which are of a revenue range of 5 to 10 crores per year. My job was just to apply a basic valuation technique, which was derived from DCF, and then make a thesis on that brand or category, key if we want to acquire that brand or not. So Powerhouse 91 was kind of a VC firm for D2C brands. You can look at Thrasio like that. Then months 3 to 6, I was basically the part of the investment team. So my job was to create category thesis across D2C segments. Say, feminine hygiene and menstrual care is a segment. Adult care is a segment. then pet food is a segment. So these are different kinds of segments, and you create a thesis of where you see the particular segment in the next, say, 5 years or 10 years. And the next would be channel expansion. As I previously mentioned, channel expansion is putting your product in different channels, in different sales channels, like um, quick commerce, Snapdeal, Instagram Market, Amazon, Flipkart, etc. The last 6 months of my internships were as a part of the CXO office or founder's office, wherein I was managing new product development. So, new product development is effectively, launching intersecting products of a particular category in a pre-existing brand. So if I am selling a product A and product B is closely related with product A, and I can use product A's marketing and growth resources to, fund the initial growth phase of product B, then it makes perfect sense to launch product B in brand which has product A as its hero product. So that is new product development. um, then founder's office, as I mentioned, MIS is management information system. So you track the performance of all the departments, namely HR, finance, customer success, and you keep a track of the numbers. So the numbers are usually divided into two categories: KPIs and KRAs. KRAs means key responsibility areas, and KPIs, key performance indicators. So these two are very good ways to measure the performance of employees and a department in a startup or a big company as well. And these MISs, they are presented regularly to the initial investors in seed or series A companies, because the investors are usually very involved with the day-to-day functioning of the company, because the company is still in the make or break phase here. So this was Powerhouse 91 for me. Second is Bureau. So Bureau is a fintech SaaS startup, and Powerhouse 91 was related with consumer goods. So these two were completely different. One was physical products, and the other is software products. So I thought this is a good way to, complete the whole universe of products which exist out there. So I joined Bureau during the completion of their Series A. So this was the 10 to 100 journey of the startup, which is Series A to Series C, for example. So the timelines also matched perfectly. And here in Bureau, I witnessed rapid growth and expansion in different geographies. For example, when I joined, we used to operate only in India, but now we sell in USA, Southeast Asia, and other markets as well. I gained first-hand experience as a product manager in a B2B SaaS enterprise for the first time. And this actually made me realize how consumer goods are different from tech-first businesses where software is a product. And here I had the opportunity to dive deep in a particular industry, which is the identity verification and financial fraud prevention industry, which is a very specialized industry. And I don't think I would have been able to get such an exposure in some other consumer facing brand, because this is a thing which goes in the background and we don't even realize how it's taking place. And then, as a manager, I would say one of the most important things in a tech first startup is managing the expectations between sales and engineering. So, I would say in a SaaS startup, product management is nothing but a bridge between sales and engineering, where you're able to handle client expectations also, and you're managing your engineering bandwidth. And it's all about finding a balance between those two, and that's how tech companies grow. So yeah, that was more or less my experience and my work at startups and my experience in product and strategy roles. Here are my contact details. You feel free to reach out to me anytime on any platform. My room number is VK136. You can visit me anytime. Yep.
All right.
Questions?
Yeah, thank you, Atishay. We will now head on to the next speaker for this talk. Can I guys see my screen? 1 minute. Just give me a second. Yeah. Our next speaker is Naman Madan. Uh, just like Atisha, he is also pursuing MSc Economics plus BE in Computer Science. He is a quantitative analyst at Tower Research Capital. He has been a research intern in the Copenhagen Business School. He has also been a research consultant for World Quant, and his campus commitments are Gurukul. If you guys would be attending Dhwani, then you would have seen him as a drummer. So I will go over to Naman to take over the talk now.
Yeah, I'll just share my screen.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so is my screen visible? Hello.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, so I would start this talk. So firstly, I want to tell you कि I would be very direct. So for this, I would use a mix of both English and Hindi, and it's probably comfortable for most of you. So I'll start about it. So I am Naman, and I'm a quant intern at Tower Research Capital. And so this is the question I wanted to ask, but all of you are muted. So sorry, I won't be able to ask you. So I'll just say, what do I do? So essentially, I try to make money from very noisy market data. So this may seem a little ambiguous, and to be honest, it's really ambiguous. काफी मुश्किल है मतलब just looking at data and trying to make money from it. So, a little bit about my experience in the trading world. So, I worked with two proprietary trading firms before, and that were Investec Solutions and Quant Express, and before Tower. And mostly, I worked in alpha generation and hosting systems on various brokers that were related to the Indian index derivatives and the equities market. So you all can ignore if you don't know what are index derivatives, equities, and जिनको पता है that is good for you. And secondly, I also made like real time tools for discretionary traders. So discretionary traders are people जो मतलब manually trade करते हैं, that trade just by looking at charts and looking at graphs and trade on various brokers. And after my second year, I also freelanced for like 1 to 2 months by automating strategies for clients. And my recommendation to all of you is कि ये चीज कभी मत करना, बहुत ही बेकार एक्सपीरियंस था मेरा. So it was something like कि I used to get calls from random people, and they used to tell me their strategies, and I used to automate them on their brokers. So I used to get clients from various parts of India. So because of which there was that language barrier, and along with that they had their own special brokers on, and on all these special brokers they didn't have their documentation or something like that. So this was one of my worst experiences. So now I will talk about the quant industry. So I'm pretty sure लोगों ने सिर्फ इसका नाम सुना है, and people, most of the people don't know exactly क्या होता है. So I will try to break it down in essentially two parts. So this is it. So first is the sell side versus buy side. सो एसेंशियली यू ऑल शुड अंडरस्टैंड कि जो हमारे कॉलेज में जो प्रैक्टिस स्कूल में जो कंपनीज आती हैं, द कंपनीज दैट कम टू आवर कॉलेजेस फॉर द practice school thing are mostly sell side firms, and recently buy side firms have started to come on campus. And for sell side, I will tell कौन सी companies होते हैं. So you might have heard about like JP Morgan quant roles, or Credit Suisse quant roles, and Nomura quant roles. So all these are basically sell side firms. So what do these firms do? Essentially, they sell their research to different buy side people, to HNIs. So I was talking with one of my seniors जो JP Morgan में था. So he told me कि essentially this stuff is little boring. Essentially after some time it becomes repetitive. So essentially they have to run like simulations of code and just give their results to the HNIs and the people there. So what I do is buy side. So I would say my work is much better and cooler than the sell side people. So essentially we are like managing a fund. So essentially हमारे पास कुछ पैसे दिए जाते हैं हमारे managers के द्वारा, and उसके बाद what do we do is essentially we have given a market, say we are given Indian markets and we are given say 5 CR, 5 crore rupees. So what do? We trade 5 crore rupees on the Indian markets, and our just profit is to make a good amount of money and minimize our risk. So that is what buy side people do. So these include all these like hedge funds, asset managers, HFT firms, and all these different MFT firms and all these different funds. So next, I will start what is HFT and what is MFT. So HFT is high frequency trading and MFT is mid frequency trading. So मैंने like एक analogy बनाई है between the how can you compare high frequency trading and mid frequency trading. So one is like high frequency trading is like Sarojini Nagar. So Sarojini Nagar is a big market in India where people sell clothes for like really cheap prices. So you will find people there just yelling out ki you can buy like 10 pieces of clothes for 100 rupees each. If you buy 5 you'll get for 200 rupees each, something like that. So HFT is something similar to this. So margins as in, for example, a cloth is of rupees 100, so margin uh, made by that shopkeeper would be say rupees 20 on that. The cost would be 80 and he would make a margin of rupees 20. So margins are less in this, but volumes are high. So the shopkeeper will only make good amount of profit if he is able to sell a lot of clothes, which may have lower margin, but the volumes would be higher. And for mid frequency trading, it is something similar to what Gucci and these high end brands do. So they have a very high margin. They'll sell like a piece of cloth for rupees 20,000 and their cost would be say 5,000. So they'll make a margin of 15,000. So from this you can say basically mid frequency trading we trade less in this, and in high frequency trading we trade a lot in this. So volumes are higher in high frequency trading, and in mid frequency trading volumes are relatively lower. And for time frame in high frequency trading, these are generally in you can say in microseconds, and for mid frequency trading we generally operate with minute data, and sometimes we work with daily candles also. And the alpha is essentially the strategy of how what logic, what trading logic are we applying to the market data, so that we are able to make money from it. So alphas in HFTs are generally relatively much weaker than the alphas in mid frequency trading, and the logic behind that is we are essentially just betting on the volume. So weaker alpha is, you can say, a lower margin. And for stronger alpha in mid frequency trading, we generally have a stronger alpha. So you can say something like, for example, if my signal in high frequency trading was say at like 9:30 a.m., but for some reason I send my order at 9:31 a.m., so my strategy will break. I will not be able to make money. But in case of mid frequency trading, if my order was to be sent at say 10:30 a.m. and I send it at 10:31 a.m., my strategy would still work. So, analyzing the costs now. So, in HFT, we have generally lower cost, lower slippages. Slippages is essentially something if you want to buy something at rupees 100, but you are not able to do it because you are sending in the order little later, or the market price has changed at during that time. So, you might buy that thing at say 103 rupees, so you will have a 3% slippage here. So in HFTs we have lower slippages, and in and in mid frequency trading we have high slippages. So for example, in HFT, our slippages for a thing we want to buy at 100 would be like 100.5 rupees, and for and for mid frequency trading it might be 103 rupees for if you want to buy at 100 rupees. And how do we achieve these low slippages in high frequency trading? So basically the infrastructure, the coding part of the high frequency trading firms are like very robust. So they have something, some kind of C++ code written, which has a very good logic of placing orders. So because of this, they are able to control their slippages. So they have a robust infrastructure. And for mid-frequency trading, we as such do not need a very strong, robust infrastructure. We are allowed to take a good amount of slippage. So coming back to the returns, so the percentage returns for high frequency trading is much higher than that of the mid frequency trading firms. And so you guys might be thinking कि फिर भाई सब लोग हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी ट्रेडिंग क्यों नहीं कर लेते, क्योंकि रिटर्न्स हायर है, मिड फ्रीक्वेंसी ट्रेडिंग क्यों ही करनी है. सो द लॉजिक बिहाइंड दैट इज कि जो फंड साइजेस होते हैं हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी ट्रेडिंग के, दे आर मच लोअर देन दैट ऑफ द मिड फ्रीक्वेंसी फर्म्स. सो फॉर एग्जांपल, say fund size of a mid frequency firm is 100 cr and that of a high frequency firm is 10 cr. So, and if I make 100% on 10 CR, that is the returns of HFT, so I'll get 10 CR in profit. But for mid-frequency firms, if I am able to generate a 30% return on 100 CR, I'm able to make 30 CR. So, in absolute terms, mid-frequency sometimes beats the high frequencies return. And I'm hoping this is clear. थोड़ा सा लोग confusion होता है इसमें. And apart from this, there is LFT also. LFT is low frequency trading, so उसमें mostly it is like investing. So that is something similar to what mutual funds do and big investment banks do. And उसके लिए भी similar है कि they even have lower returns than mid frequency trading, but they also have a higher fund size than mid frequency trading. So yeah. So I'm pretty sure everybody must be confused ki how to enter this field. So people are like, ki, what should I do? What I should do DSA, machine learning. In mathematics, I should do statistics, probability, linear algebra, or even stochastic calculus, or even prepare like puzzles from brain stellar, or read about options market or trading market, or even if I have a good CGPA and I am eligible to sit in companies or not. So ये थोड़ा सा ambiguous है, but I would say कि for like in case if you take my example, मैंने मतलब DSA नहीं करा. I got a C in my DSA in my 3-2. एंड मैंने मतलब मुझे मशीन लर्निंग भी थोड़ी बहुत आती है, ज़्यादा कुछ नहीं आता. एंड इन मैथमेटिक्स आई वुड से स्टैटिस्टिक्स प्रोबेबिलिटी आता है, ये लीनियर अलजेब्रा और स्टोकेस्टिक कैलकुलस का तो पता भी नहीं क्या होता है. लीनियर अलजेब्रा तो मेरे फर्स्ट ईयर में था, तो वो तो कुछ नहीं करा. एंड उसके बाद वी हैव दिस पजल्स. एंड puzzles me you can go through that brain stellar thing, but uh, all of this actually depends from like firm to firm. So let me just start about this. So you can say these are these three firms like Quadai, Graviton, NK Security, all are based out of Gurgaon, and they right now only hire IIT people only. So these are generally for fresher roles. They might have someone experienced from BITS Pilani or some other college, but they are very stringent regarding the IIT thing. So, but I want all of you to try and get a fresher role later. I would be really happy about it. So yeah, coming back to the firm and the role. So for HFT, mostly people ask DSA, mathematics, and puzzles. And for and actually it depends from like candidate to candidate and firm to firm ki what does they ask, what do they ask, and how can you get a role there. And for mid frequency, it is very random, and it actually depends on the exact role and the firm. So I would explain it in detail. So for example, सबसे पहले तो I'll just start with like couple of mid frequency firms जो इंडिया में हैं. So for example, TrexQuant and WorldQuant, all of them do like some kind of market neutral strategies. So they work with like alpha generation only, but generally they hire people from good colleges with higher CGPAs who know DSA and who also know a good amount of machine learning. So probably TrexQuant and WorldQuant are like biased on like machine learning. And then coming back to Millennium Management, जो recently start हो रहा है इंडिया में, they have their head office in Mumbai. So generally they look for very like very outlier kind of candidates. So for them, they look for very high CGPA. They'll want a 9.5 CGPA person. They want the person to be in computer science. They want the person to know DSA, mathematics, puzzle, and even want him or her to know the finance and the finance and the puzzles part also, and yeah, even machine learning also. And then there are like some kind of firms, for example, where I am working at our research, and where I've also worked before. So mostly they ask me about trading and what kind of systems I have made earlier, my prior experiences, mostly relating to alpha generation on Indian markets. So if you know a good amount of trading, you know about the derivatives market, and you have made some good kind of strategies, then you are eligible to sit for many of the MFT firms also. So moving on, so I will tell you how did I start, how I got interested in this field. तो सबसे पहले it was my first year it was like COVID, so I was at my home, so काफी clueless था कि क्या करना है लाइफ में. Then after that, तो तब like it was I would say dual it, तो तब था कि भाई बस पढ़ाई करके ले लेनी अच्छी ब्रांच. So वो करा, and उसके बाद after that I saw my friends getting internship in various places. So tab I wanted to do something more. So I got my first internship in a small startup, and that startup was also something, you can say, it was basically providing investment decisions to people. So from that I got interested in finance, and after that I also did a course by Harvard Business School, uh, which was a quite expensive course, and I wouldn't recommend any of you to take it, but that helped me a lot. So usme I did like accounting था उसमें, and it had like statistical methods and some other things also. So from that I got interested in finance. Then after that, in my second year, I realized कि a second when I was in my college in my 2-1, that is my second year's first semester. So I was a little confused what to do in life. So at that time, I just like studied for a while, and after studying, I got a good CGPA. I got an almost 9 CGPA in that semester. But after that, I realized probably कि पढ़ाई तो मतलब यूजफुल तो नहीं है लॉन्ग टर्म के लिए, बिकॉज यू आर नॉट गेटिंग टू लर्न अ लॉट ऑफ स्किल्स. आई माइट बी रॉन्ग, बट मतलब फॉर मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल इट इज लाइक यू स्टडी फॉर अ सेमेस्टर एंड फॉरगेट एवरीथिंग यू डिड लास्ट सेमेस्टर. सो वो थोड़ा सा यूजलेस प्रोसेस है. So after that, I decided कि मुझे तो I am passionate about trading, and then I did this course about like DRM, which was taught by Byomkesh sir, and this course was really good. It taught about the derivatives market, it taught about the futures and options and the various strategies, and how do we apply the various pricing models, the binomial pricing model, the Black-Scholes model, ठीक है वो सब. But after that, so I thought कि I should apply to some trading firms and see what kind of roles do they have. So मैंने कुछ नहीं करा, मैंने YouTube खोला, लिखा how to start trading, थोड़ा वैट से पढ़ा, थोड़ा बहुत ट्रेडिंग वेडिंग का देखा. Then I started to make like basic projects in Python. So for the first project I'll tell you कि you have to be, मतलब अगर तुम्हें पहली बार एंट्री बनानी है ट्रेडिंग फील्ड में, तो यू नीड टू बी अ लिटिल quirky and you need to know a lot of things. By lot of things I don't mean the academics part or the trading part. I mean you need to understand the industry in depth. So what I did was कि मैंने एक project बनाया. It was a very shabby project. It was something related to like investing in energy stocks, and my selling procedure to firms was very unique. So मैं उनको कहता था कि भाई देखो मैं पिलानी में पढ़ता हूँ, यहाँ पे तो मेरा लाइक मेरे सेमेस्टर तो पिलानी में लाइट ही नहीं आती है. सो आई वाज सो मोटिवेटेड दैट आई अंडरस्टूड कि एनर्जी स्टॉक्स आर सो इम्पोर्टेंट इन लाइफ. सो मैंने उसका एक पूरा पोर्टफोलियो बना दिया इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए, यूजिंग दिस क्वांटिटेटिव फाइनेंस थिंग ऑन पाइथन. सो उनको लगा कि सो दिस एडेड अ लिटिल पर्सनल टच टू दिस. तो उनको लगा कि हाँ द पर्सन इज लिटिल मोटिवेटेड, दो ही माइट नो अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स, बट ही हैज वर्क. सो ऐसे मैंने प्रोजेक्ट बनाए. एंड आफ्टर दिस, Fundafin was also a very good course. though it is not related to trading, but matlab it's a good course to start with. So then I started to reach out to a lot of firms on LinkedIn. Then some answered back, some scheduled interviews, and was selected in some. So this is after my second year. This is my second year summer. So during that time मेरा PS1 भी था, तो PS1 में तो मैंने ज़्यादा कुछ करा नहीं. And I would also recommend you कि if you get a PS in your like liking, then उसमें अच्छे से काम करो. अगर तुम्हें लगता है कि you can work somewhere else, तो try to leverage that. So next, I'm pretty sure you might be confused कि हम लोग क्या करें. So the simple thing is कि obviously it depends on your branch, CGPA, skills, passion and aspirations. तुम लोगों को क्या करना है? तुम लोगों को फाइनेंस में इंटरेस्ट है या ट्रेडिंग में इंटरेस्ट है या फिर तुम्हें बस पैसे में इंटरेस्ट है. So it depends on all this. So my recommendation to first year dualites is first study and then explore, and for first year singleites is first explore then study. So this is very important, and you know why it is so. So Abhi, if you're in your first year, then you should probably uh, just explore, have fun in college, and uske baad second year onwards, then you can start to like decide what do you want to do and what do you want to try out. So, essentially, I do mid-frequency trading. I was passionate about trading and finance in general, so I do mid-frequency trading. So, this is a very generalized roadmap to what all you can try to do. So सबसे पहले you can start by learning trading in equities and you can do it from YT varsity. तो मैं बताता यार मैं क्या करता था. मैं बस YouTube खोल के लोगों को ट्रेड करते हुए देखता था. There were people who used to trade live in the market. तो मैं उनको देखता था भाई ये लोग क्या कर रहे हैं. So उससे I got to learn a lot. Then कुछ मुझे समझ नहीं आता था तो I just used to Google it and Investopedia का लिंक आ जाता था उसमें पढ़ लेता था क्या होता है. सो तो ऐसे ही करा. फिर उसके बाद ऐसे ही यूट्यूब पे सर्च करा हाउ टू मेक मॉडल्स इन पाइथन. देन आई मेड अ कपल ऑफ मॉडल्स यूजिंग पुट कॉल पैरिटी जो मैंने डीआरएम में सीखा था. देन आई मेड अ कपल ऑफ इन्वेस्टिंग मॉडल्स. So from this step onward, the second step where you are trying to make models in Python, then you can start applying to firms. So then after this probably पूरा Indian markets and probably काफी सारे लोग derivatives करते हैं. So you should know about derivatives. If you are planning to, if you are economics, you will mostly have to do DRM. So that will help, that would help. And if you are not uh, economics dualite, then you can take a minor in finance. Or agar, if you are a dualite and can't take a minor, then you can skip this and even learn about like option trading or trading in futures from varsity and other resources. But मतलब it's important कि you just be there and try to learn it slowly. काफी slow process होगा but you will learn it. Even I would say कि कोई YouTube को भी देख लो, YouTuber को भी देख लो जो रोज सुबह उठ के trading करता है derivatives में, that would help a lot. Then after this, I would recommend कि you start making a proper backtesting pipeline in Python for equities and future. So essentially, you need to write a code in Python or R, whatever language you prefer. But मतलब Python is mostly acceptable everywhere. So you write a code in Python about how to backtest a strategy. Backtest is basically checking a strategy is performing good in the historical period or not. So you will have to write your like selling and buying logic, your entry and exit signals and everything about it. Then after this, if you have made this pipeline, so I would say you have done a lot for now. And then you can basically, if you want to learn more about finance side, then you can start learning about the options market in depth. So you can learn about like various Greeks and about the implied volatility, skews, and types of strategies applied by different firms and what people do. So you can learn about what kind of strategies people are doing. So mostly people in India do like short gamma strategies. So uske बारे में you can read about. Then people do market neutral strategies. Then people do directional strategies. So all these are different types of strategies. So इनके बारे में you can read a lot and try to see कि where do you see yourself working and उसी firm में फिर you can apply. So and the last step is basically learning about web sockets, broker APIs. So this is generally done by tier 2 mid-frequency firms. even all the, like you can say, startups in the trading firms, all of them do this. They use APIs. So hota kya hai ki there are brokers who have like certain APIs, and from these APIs you basically automate your strategy. You don't need to like sit down every day and based on your strategies logic you need to uh, see the charts and trade. So WebSockets से you get the data in real time, मतलब हर like seconds में data आता रहेगा fast fast fast, और उस पे तुम फिर strategies बना सकते हो, उससे तुम अपनी strategies post कर सकते हो. And even you can do this from your like college room also. This is very easy. So like Zerodha का Kite API है, Fires के API हैं, and बहुत सारे API हैं, सबके documents अवेलेबल है इंटरनेट पे, एंड बहुत सिंपल सिंपल ही होते हैं. तो ये तुम सीख के अपनी स्ट्रैटेजीज तुम ऑटोमेट कर सकते हो. So this is yeah, like the last step कि ये सब मतलब how did I get opportunities. So सबसे पहले तो लिंक्डइन पे तुम रीच आउट करो, लोगों को मेल करो या कंपनी पोर्टल्स पे रीच आउट करो, या फिर तुम्हारे पास कोई पर्सनल कनेक्ट है तो वो भी मस्त है. बट ये तुमने सबसे सुना होगा कि लिंक्डइन मेल एंड कंपनी पोर्टल्स वर्क. यू राइट कोल्ड मेल्स, you like messages on LinkedIn and people will get back to you, and then they'll schedule interviews. I'm pretty sure many of you have tried and failed a lot, but I would say कि मैंने भी बहुत, I've from my second year onwards I started networking, and after that I realized probably कि this is one of the best things for you to land your dream job or something like that. So you can say कि you need to write a very good message and show people कि why you are awesome and better than other people. You need to show them कि what have you done and what can you do for them. And I've also seen people, uh, यहाँ पे मैं थोड़ा ग्रामेटिक मिस्टेक करा, I've written at least 2 times, but yeah. So you should write 5 to 10 follow-ups at least. And even I have seen I've gotten interviews even after writing 15 to 20 follow-ups. So you need to be very quirky about your messages, and you need to tell people ki why you are better than others and why you can make money for them. So this is a very important thing. And I will now share some tips for LinkedIn, how to reach out to people. So so you need to understand, if you want to enter into a trading firm, you want to know about trading, तुम रूम में बैठे बैठे नहीं सीख सकते. You need to get some hands-on experience in some firm. So for this you need to show ki what certain things you have done historically. So uske liye the best is you make some projects in Python. You make some, or even better, you make some live like trading system, your own trading system. Even that could be like investing in mutual funds, or even it could be based on like IPOs or something. So that is a very good thing to do. You can just show them your like, this is my demat account and I have made this amount of profits, and I can also do that for you. So this is a very good strategy. So I will tell my historically how did I start to reach out to people. I used to write a very big messages to people on LinkedIn, but I realized I was failing at this because people were not replying to me. So then I used to write follow-ups. Even follow-ups, maybe ऐसा था कि I was just writing 4 or 5 follow-ups and उसके बाद people were not replying to me. So you should understand, need to write at least 10 follow-ups, and probably after that you can then think of giving up on that person. And apart from that, किसको reach out करना, who are the right people to reach out. So LinkedIn पे there is that thing known as reaction and comment. You can check that on person's profile and see ki for the past 3 weeks or 2 weeks has the person reacted to something or has been active on something. So say you'll gauge that the person is basically using LinkedIn or not, and what's the point of sending a message to a person who opens his LinkedIn like once in 4 months. So that is one thing. And in my second year, I realized that probably I wasn't very successful at sending these messages. So I used a very smart trick. So what I used to do, I worked on some kind of strategy, and I used to send them कि I've made this kind of strategy which this kind of firms do. Can you help me out? And I knew कि probably this person would deny because the work we do in these trading firms are very secretive. So this person probably would deny me about working or seeing my strategy, but at least that person will gauge ki what I can do, and he or she might know ki what I have done and what kind of strategy is this, is this scalable or not, or something like that. So in my second year, I used to show them this strategy. I'm working on this strategy. Can you help me? So people used to hear me out, and uske baad they used to reply me ki at this early stage of your college, you are doing a good job, but this is we are working in a proprietary firm, so we can't help you with this. So after that, you try to talk with the person, or even try to build some kind of connection with him or her, and then you can ask for a favor. If you have an opening for the next summer, can I apply at your firm, or could you refer me at your firm, or could you schedule an interview for me? So that is it. And for cold mails, I would say don't write everything about your past experiences and uh, uh, anything about that in your cold mail. They can check your resume and learn from it. So essentially, in your cold mails, you need to be really quirky. You can mention some of their work, some of your work, and also mention you came across their profile and saw what kind of work you do, and you think that how can you make like alphas for them and build strategies for them. So recently what I do is on my cold mails I generally write a statistical approach of building strategies, and I've showed them how my returns change significantly when I apply that kind of filter, or I apply different kind of filter. So they are able to gauge I know certain things that work in their industry, so because of this they can call me for an interview or something. So I think this was more or less about it. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Madan. So we'll go and head on to our last speaker for the day, and that would be Ayan Madan. Let me share my screen once. 1 second. Uh, can everyone see my screen? Yeah, okay, cool. So our last speaker for the day is Ayan. He's pursuing BE Chemical Engineering, and he has also pursued a minor in finance. Uh, he is a quant researcher at Alpha Grep, and he has been an investment analyst for Alta Global. He is also the founding member of the Center of Financial Markets CFM BITS Pilani, and his campus commitments include the Wall Street Club, and he has been part of the placement unit's career development cell and the junior placement committee. So over to you, Ayan. I don't think we can hear you, Ayan.
Yeah, just a second.
Here, we can.
Can you look at the screen now?
Yes, I can.
Right. Is the PPT visible?
Yes, it is. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Hi guys. So this talk will be regarding how exactly to go about getting an internship in quant off campus. So a bit about myself. I am currently in my final year, doing chemical engineering, and my work ex is I've just started up an internship at Alpha Group as a quant researcher. Prior to that, I worked at IH Capital, and I started out with working at a family office as a quant researcher. Apart from that, I've done some internships in other spaces as well, web development, VC, and if you and World Quant as a research consultant as well, if you like to count that. But since Naman pretty much covered all the bases about what goes on in the industry and everything else, I will be covering more about how exactly to get those roles. So this will be a bit less about my journey, but more about what you guys can do, because I want to keep it as unbiased as possible. So, who is a quant? So, there are two main roles when it comes to quant. It's researcher and trader. I won't be talking much about devs because I don't have enough knowledge. So, a quant is generally a person who uses two skills, math and coding, to make money in the market. Essentially, you're given a lot of data, market data, any kind of data that you want, and you have to detect patterns in those data and make money using those patterns. For example, if you know a stock often goes high in the month of November, so the moment November starts, you buy that stock, that kind of thing. And your work largely depends on what kind of firm you're interning at, what kind of team in the firm you're working at. And essentially, as Naman also mentioned, there are two fields: high frequency trading and medium frequency trading. And often whenever a firm's name is taken, such as Graviton or Corday, people often think, okay, they do most high frequency trading. While this was the norm a couple of years back, things have been starting to change. Most firms' P&L statement has also been skewed more towards mid frequency trading uh, than high frequency trading. The reason is a bit technical, but that's something that's been happening in the market. And what exactly is the difference between off campus and on campus hiring? So for on campus, you have to be from a tier one college. BITS does come into tier one college in a general aspect, but when it comes to quant, not really. There's not much of a research or coding culture here on our campus. But it's starting to improve a bit, so that's a good thing. So you can expect a few quant firms coming to our college in the coming few years. Hopefully, by your guys' placements, a good bunch of quant firms will be coming on. But yeah, so you have to be from tier one, which essentially means top IIT. Then you have to be from a circular branch, which is computer science, maths and computing, triple E, CE, and all those branches. Then you need to have a stellar academic record. 8.5 plus CG is also 8.5 is also considered low CG when it comes to quant firms. You usually need to have 9 plus, and you need to be good at DSA and problem solving in order to crack the on-campus process. And many times, say firms as Graviton or Corday, they visit a campus. They visit for a bunch of roles, say SD and controls, and the OA is very common. This is done so that people don't just blindly apply for quant roles. And the reason for that is students often know that, okay, quant firms pay a bit high in terms of bonuses. So they don't want students just to apply for quant roles when they would have been a better fit for SD roles. So that's why there's a common way, and students have to fill in their preference of which role they want to apply for. And then according to their performance in each section, they're evaluated. For off campus, you do not need any of these criteria, but if you do match all of them, or if you do match even a single one of them, it helps a lot. And the interview process, I wouldn't keep a pin on it. It's not fixated, it depends quite a lot. We'll discuss more about that. And what all do you need to make it off campus? So the thing that you need to keep in your mind is, you need to prove to them that you are better than their on campus people. Better as in, or at least at par. So if you're applying off campus, then you're already don't have an edge. You need to compensate for essentially what you're lacking, in the sense of not being from a tier one college, not having a very good academic record, not having a very good coding profile, not being from a circular branch. You have to make up for it. So the number one thing that you can do, the best thing, is to have a very good work ex. Now this work ex you can build out slowly. It won't happen overnight, obviously. But work ex projects, publications, if you have any, and coding profile, etc. These are something which you can use to build out your profile and keep it relevant to quant, so that someone who is interviewing you that gets impressed ki, okay, even though this guy is not from a T1, or even though this guy is not from a circuital branch, even though this guy doesn't have a good CG, I can see that he has put in the work to build up his profile. So I know that he'll work. I know he's smart enough also, because he has done work in this field. You should know how to code, and a genuine interest for markets and tech, which goes beyond money, because students often want to go into quant because of the lucrative package. Although if you're applying off campus, there are chances that you might have to start at a much lower market compensation, and that might not exactly be in line with the package that you've heard of. And it could also be the case that the CTC that you get at the starting, or the stipend that you get at the starting, is often less than your tech CTCs or tech stipends. So if you genuinely want to work in this field, and you want to work in this field long term, then you need to, look beyond compensation and all. And obviously be analytical and be good at networking, because it's an off campus. So, like I said, you need something to set you apart. And now, for industry such as quant, there's a lot of competition. Everyone knows what quant is. Everyone knows what kind of packages all these top firms are giving. Everyone knows key there are puzzles that you have to do. Everyone knows there is DSA you have to do. So you need something that sets you apart. So in my particular case, it was a combination of both work and projects. So my first internship in quant was, I think, after my 2-2. So back then I didn't have any experience related to quant, just had one web development internship and a couple of projects. Now I never picked up any project from the internet and copied it. I often did projects of my own. I would pick a problem statement of my own and try to solve it myself. I would get data from Yahoo Finance and just do a project on it. And the internship opportunity that I got, it was not at a good firm, not really. So again, but I had to start. So that led to that led to be a resume point in which I could talk about in my further interviews. And by doing that internship, I feel someone who's sitting across me looked at my resume and goes, okay, not many people are able to do this, so this is the guy who can do it. So that was the maker for me. And second thing is projects. Like I told you, for projects you need to do projects on your own, so that when an interviewer questions about the project to you, you are able to answer it completely. You can't leave any stone unturned. And academic performance, I don't have a good academic performance, but some firms do keep it at a very high priority. They have certain policies. So if you have a good academic performance, then obviously you'd have a much better chance. But even if you don't, since you guys are in first second year, it does not hurt to increase your CG. A good CG always open more doors. Now, how to apply for internships? LinkedIn, that's your go-to method. If you're starting out, if you don't have any work ex, then start searching for small quant firms. Obviously, won't get into Graviton, Corday, AlphaGrep right out of the gate. So you'd need to work at small quant firms. The way you can do it is go to LinkedIn and just search quant, and then see what all people are you finding. So search which institute are they from. You would stumble upon a firm which you never heard of who is engaged in all of this, and then you can go to people section over there and you can see the background of the people working at the firm. If that is decent, obviously they won't be your top 7 IT CS grads. But if their profile is decent and you like the website, you like what they describe their work as, then shoot them a text. Tell them you're from BITS. Tell them you want to work in quant, and tell them this and this is the project that you have done. Tell them if the office is in Gurgaon or in a metro city, you would be comfortable working on site as well. So this is basically how you will start building out your work. And obviously don't expect high stipend, don't expect high benefits, don't expect that cushy quant profile that you've always heard of right out the gate. It I worked when I worked right after my 2-2, my starting stipend was 10,000, which is nowhere near the actual stipend of quant, but I had to start somewhere. And if you're performing good, there's a chance that your firm increases your stipend, which was the case for me. So don't just go behind stipend, or don't just go behind, I would say, brand name when it comes to internships. Just slowly build out your resume. And as you build out your resume, you have more to talk about to your interview. You have more to write about in your LinkedIn inbound request. So that always helps a lot. And like I said, reach out to those small firms. When it comes to these small firms, they're often very happy if a Bitsian from a T1 college is interested in working at their firm. They would like to advertise it, obviously. And second is portals. I would suggest for you to apply to portals only when you're looking for a summer internship or for full-time roles. Apart from that, please don't apply from portals, because there's this generally norm that if you have applied from portals to all these big firms, and then say after within the 6-7 months you need to apply for SI or placements again, they won't be accepting your application again, because you have to pass a 6 months cool down period. So if you are applying through portals, make sure you're doing it only for a summer internship or placements. Otherwise, don't do it. For summer internship and placements, also I'll touch upon what's the approach. But often portals haven't worked for me. Portals only have worked for me for big firms such as IMC, Citadel, Da Vinci, Flow Traders, and all. Because often these firms have enough money in the pocket to sort out their recruitment pipeline. They would have 50, 60 campus recruiters whose job would be to go through your resume to assess whether or not you're a worthy applicant. Whereas when it comes to Indian firms, it's not like they don't have the money to sort out their recruitment pipeline. It's that they don't need to do it, so they just apply a simple filter on what college are you from, what CG you have, what branch you have. That's it. So I would say portals generally work out for big global firms. And what kind of skills do you need to make it off campus? Be good at coding. If coding doesn't interest you, if it makes you feel boring, or if it irritates you, then I don't think you should be looking at this field, because the way you make money in quant is by two things. You need to be good at math, which is prob and stats, and then you need to know how to code so that you can implement all of that. So if you're not good at it, then I would suggest you look at some other field. But if you are, then I would recommend you to learn Python or R, because these two languages are highly relevant when it comes to data analysis projects. And that's how basically you start, because in order to detect patterns and everything, you need to be good at exploratory data analysis and all of that. Second is prob and stats. Obviously, do need a high level understanding of prob and stats. What's a mean? What's a median? What's a normal distribution? All of that. But if you have done a formal course, like I think all of you have done in your first year, MSN and PNS, and if some of you have eco degree, you might have also done econometrics, MSM, and all of that. Then it helps quite a lot. I would highly suggest you to go through all the course content of these courses. If you have an interview coming up, you never know what they might ask. Third is finance, know your derivatives, pricing models, etc. I'll be giving out the resources for all of these at the end of it. And fourth is ML. Now, anytime you must have read a JD for any quant role, they always write if you have knowledge of ML, it's a plus. I personally haven't used ML ever, but it's been asked to me in certain interviews. And again, there's no reason not to learn ML for a field whose sole foundation is to detect patterns in a time series. So if you know ML, if you have a high understanding of it, if you can implement a very basic random forest model, you can explain it to a 5-year-old, then it's a good skill to have. Now, say that you have all these skills, say that you build out your resume with projects and work. Now you have a summer internship or a placement interview coming up at one of the big firms. How exactly do you go about it? First is, off-campus interviews don't exactly have any structure. It largely depends on the team that you're interviewing in. I've had, I've heard of people who are interviewing at the same firms that I have, but their interview would be very different from the interview that I experienced. That mostly because of the difference in the team and difference in the guy who is interviewing you. So some firms have asked me about my about options in WorkX. Some firms have asked me about my WorkX in very in-depth probability applications, which you would not know of if you have not done a course formally in your college. So that's why I'm saying do that course. You can't leave any stone unturned. And some firms have also asked me normal standard PNS and normal lead code question like the norm suggests. Some firms have focused more on my CG or branch. Any firm that I've interned at, they never ask me about my branch, never ask me about my CG. But there are some firms who do care a lot about it. So if you can increase your CG as much. Don't give them a reason to choose someone else over you who comes from a better institute, who comes from a better branch. Now, in order for you to prepare for those interviews, like I said, you need to be very good at problem stats. You need to be able to explain all those concepts to you, to someone else. You don't just need a bookish understanding of it, but you need to have an intuitive approach to it. So there's a course called Data 140 from UC Berkeley. I would highly suggest you to do that course. It has Python Jupyter notebooks built into it. Then there is Quantopian that you can refer. Then PNS and BITS coursework is also pretty exhaustive when it comes to distributions and all. And there's MIT open coursework 6.0 for one, that is applied probability. You can pretty much do one of these courses and then have a good enough understanding of PNS for interviews. Obviously, it would take some revision at some times, but yeah. Second is puzzles. Puzzles is basically the norm. Any quant firm you're interviewing at, they do ask puzzles. Puzzle would generally go about, uh, to give you an example, how many coin tosses do you need to get 5 heads in a row? How many times do you need to throw a dice to get all the 6 numbers? So those kind of those kind of questions, they range from basic questions like this to very advanced questions where the interviewer engages in a game with you. The interviewer might have a deck of card in front of him and he will ask you to play a game with him, and you have to use all these fundamental concepts that you have learned from solving these puzzles and studying PNS to actually win at the game against him and explain your approach. So puzzles again vary quite a lot. So there's a green book by, I think, it's called Practical Guide to Con Interviews. That so I would say you need to do the green book first before you do any other book. The reason for that is it explains concepts and their explanations and then solves a bunch of questions on it. So that's pretty good. Mark Joshi is essentially a selection of all these questions and its solutions. And then you have 50 challenging problems. This book is relatively tougher than Green Book and Mark Joshi. Only do it once you've done these two books. Then you have Brainsteller. Questions often on Brainsteller are common to Green Book and Mark Joshi, but there's I think a strategy section on Brainsteller which deals with questions based on optimal strategy. Do that. Then there's a quantguide.io, again a very exhaustive uh, selection of questions, and tradermath.org. Now this site has tests exclusively for companies, so it tries to simulate the test for various companies. For example, if you have an interview coming up at Optiv, they're notorious for their online assessment. It's extremely tough, so it's better to practice it on a site like tradermath.org. It's paid, but I think the subscription is worth it. If you have an interview coming up, it's helped me quite a lot. Then for finance, I would say if you don't know a thing, start up with Zero Varsity, read about stocks, what affects their stock prices and everything. And then there's a book by Sheldon Attenborough, which tou- which starts off by discussing basics of futures and options, and then goes very in depth about their Greeks as well, pricing models as well. So do refer to that book. You can find the PDF of this book anywhere. Although I will be giving a resource compilation at the uh, end of the PPT anyway. So for DSA, it's a standard lead code. I've never been asked a lead code hard. I've always been asked at max a lead code medium by a firm. So it doesn't matter what kind of language you use. You don't have to use C++. You don't have to use Java. If you're comfortable with Python, then it's fine. For mental maths, again, tradermath.org and Zetomac, RFQ jobs, etc. Because many firms have an element of mental maths in their online assessment. Firms like Flow Traders, Optiver has an 80 in 8 game where you have to solve 80 questions in 8 minutes. Flow Traders also has a game similar to this. So does DaVinci. So you can practice formats of all these games essentially on these three websites. But often you need to be good at mental maths. I remember I was interviewing for DaVinci and they asked me what's nine. I think it was 7 by 24 till 5 decimal places, and then after 10 seconds we started discussing something else, and then they asked me, "Oh, by the way, can you list 6 and 7 decimal places?" Well, so you need to be calm and then you need to be good to answer all these questions. And then you have your resume. Again, people often write stuff on their resume just to fill it up, just so that they can talk about it. But make sure that you're able to lead a discussion with the interviewer on the project that you have done, on the work you have done in your internship. If you're not able to explain anything, then that's a clear red flag. Now, there's a concept called law of large numbers and probability. It applies this to off-campus applications as well. Now, it says that if a million experiments are happening, there are bound to be some outliers. Now, in case of applying to off-campus, these outliers are your interview calls or the offer letters that you get. Because the conversion rate is very low, you apply to 100 firms, you're going to get reverted only 4 or 5 of them. But even if you get rejected in any interview round, or even if someone says we can't accept your application, just ask them the feedback, ask them why not, and then if whatever they say makes sense, then accept that, work on it, and move on. And more firms you apply to, more interviews you will get. Now, things not to do are apply with low to mid preparation. Most candidates do this quite a lot. They often apply to big firms like Millennium, uh, Optiver, Flow Traders, and then they bomb the interview when it comes for summer internship, and then they can't even apply for full-time roles. Why? Because they bomb the interview, and these firms often have a 1 year cool down period. So make sure if you're applying to one of these firms, you're fully prepped. Do not fail at their OA. Do not fail at their HR interview. You need to be fully prepped before applying to any of these firms. And do not oversell yourself. If you come off as someone who only talks, who can't answer a question, then you're an instant rejection. Uh, and do not just write stuff on your resume just to fill it up. Do not copy projects. If you're not able to explain, if you're not able to defend, you're an instant reject. And do not ignore basic questions. Everyone does the books I mentioned for the puzzles. You can find them anywhere, any quant compilation, you can find them. But sometimes interviews ask basic questions of linear regression. They'll ask a very simple paradoxical question on prop and stats, and students often aren't able to solve that question because they don't have the they don't understand the fundamental concept of PNS. So that's why I'm saying need to do a formal course on PNS as well. And to again reiterate the second point, do not oversell yourself. Do not think that you know more than the interviewer. Do not think that you're good for this role till you've gotten the offer letter. And firms that you can apply to, now Naman did say that many firms have hire only IITians, but it is changing a bit. So a lot of global firms like IMC, Optiver, Jump, DaVinci, Citadel, they have been setting up their offices in India now, which in turn has increased the demand for quant students. But obviously, in that case, supply can't be the same, right? So all these quant firms, Indian quant firms, they started to look beyond their standard sample space of quants, which is typically top IIT 9+ CS triple E. So that's, I would say, apply to all the firms, that as many firms as you can. And WorkX is your ace card when it comes to summer internship and placements. If you have had good WorkX at 2 to 3 good firms, and you have had good experience, and you're able to answer whatever question that they ask, there's no reason for them to prefer someone else from an on-campus interview over you, because then they would have to spend 3 to 4 weeks training them, 3 to 4 weeks explaining them what options is, 3 to 4 weeks explaining them what ML is. They don't need to do that for you, because you've already interned at a few firms, you've already done relevant projects. So I would say WorkX is your ace card, right? And when it comes to full-time roles, firms often have to send over their applicants to their headquarters and then pay for their training over there for 3 to 6 months. Now that's very expensive. So if you can convince them ki, yes, I don't need all this training, I can just start right off the bat, that's very good for them. And just apply to all the firms. Do not leave anything out, and you never know what might work. I never thought I would be able to intern at AlphaGrep because they only hired IIT CS 9+, but I did, and I was able to make it through the interview. So don't shy away from applying to any firm. and just be stupid enough not to doubt yourself. So that's pretty much about it. I will be sharing a doc link that I have, which has pretty much all the resources you would need. I'll be sharing it along with the PPT with Sam, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Ayan. So, with this, we'll be heading to our Q&A session. We had released a Google form for you guys, and you guys have posted questions on it. Some of them open for everyone, and some of them are targeted to one of our speakers. So, starting with our first question, uh, branch is a dual-lighting chemical 22 batch. The question is, it's open for anyone, and the question is, I am a dualite who's in chemical engineering. However, I am not interested in a career in either of my degrees. I wish to go into IT, tech, or quant. How do I go about doing this? Are most IT or quant companies open to all branches? Do I compulsorily have to do a DS or finance minor to get into these fields? Seeing people like Ayan or Shivansh in chemical making it big in these fields inspires people like me. I hope they know that. All I know is that I will not be making my career in chemical or my MSc degree. I want to go into tech. So this question is open for all.
So I would say if you're confused about making to tech or quant, uh, obviously there's one thing that's common between the fields, and that is code. So start coding, and if coding interests you, then start doing finance. If finance doesn't interest you, then you need to focus more on tech. Even if you are a good coder, then even then you can work at a few quant firms as a dev. But if finance doesn't interest you, or if data exploration doesn't interest you, then I would say go for tech. And for all these off-campus roles, you don't need to do finance minor or any of that. But if you're not interested in your MSc degree or your chemical, then I would say you want to choose tech versus quant. Go for tech if you don't want to put in the effort of applying off campus, because for tech generally many companies are open to all branches provided that you cross the CG threshold. And if you want to explore finance, then you need to do a finance minor as well. Being a dual, it is a bit tough, but I think with one summer term you can cover your courses. uh, and that's pretty much it. But I would say don't restrict yourself to just tech quant as well. Do explore finance, consulting, product management a bit as well. You never know what you might like.
All right. So going to the next question. It is directed to Ayan, and Naman can also answer it since it's regarding quant. My CG is less than 8, 7.62 to be precise. So I have aimed to reach at least 8/41. I will be doing summer term to achieve the same. I used to build alphas on TextQuant and WorldQuant platforms, but but I feel like I'm not gaining any knowledge. I was just trying to copy things and paste. The AlphaGrep and TextQuant internships require to have a good knowledge base. Could you throw some light on this thing, guide, and maybe suggest some resources?
So I would, so the WorldCon thing, I think it's relevant to pretty much everyone who's over here. It's not that good, right? Me and Naman and Atish, like all three of us are research consultants at WorldCon, and you can overfit data, you can copy paste as well there. And just because you are a research consultant, obviously it doesn't mean that you are learning new things. So I would say that you need to read more about options, you need to read more about finance, and then you it's very helpful if you start trading on your own. That personally worked very well for me. I just took 1,000 to 2,000 rupees and started implementing my trading strategies on with using Python on Zerodha, and started modifying them. That gave me like a real life understanding of how exactly to go about this field. So if you are doing all of that, then you definitely learn something. And when it comes to the CG point, that is CG is less than 8 and you want to work at these firms, then like I said, you need to build out your resume in a way that they don't look at your CG. CG. They don't look at your branch. They look at something which is more important. That is work rate. So that is relevant projects that you have done. The only reason I very rarely get asked about my branch in CJ is because the conversation is usually about what work I have done in my previous internships. So if you can build out your resume in a way that you can drive the discussion about the work you have done, then I don't think it really matters if your CG is below 7 or below 6 or 9 plus. All that matters is the kind of work you have done.
Yeah, and adding to that, this person can reach out to me. I will send you a Nifty 50s market data, and then you can try to like write raw code, because the research consultant and Trex quant thing at World Quant is basically like a black box. So you won't be learning much from it. But if you try to build alphas from your own, from scratch, by using your own data, by writing code by yourself, you will learn a lot. So this person can reach out to me. I will give you the market data, and you can try to build the strategy from it.
All right. Thank you, Ayan and Madan. Going on to the next question. This one is directed to Atishay. The question is, if I have some startup idea and have the skills to execute it to some extent, should I go with that or try to find an internship? I'm interested in product management, consulting, finance, etc., and I'm in mechanical branch. The only thing stopping me from doing this is the amount of time it will take up.
Okay, so first of all, a great question. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I have asked the same question to multiple people, multiple founders, and I have always gotten a consistent answer, which I've not gotten from college peers. So people in college always say ki it's better to do a job or get an internship so that you have that security. But after talking to founders and people who are 30, 40 years old, I have always heard this कि it's never too early to start up, and अगर तुम कॉलेज में स्टार्ट करते हो तो you have like 10x more advantage. There's also one video of Sam Altman saying this: there's never a perfect time. So if you have relevant skills, if you think your idea is scalable, and if you have a partner who can be a co-founder or a founding team member, I think you should 100% start in college, because one, it's easier if you fail in college, because as a failed founder also, you'll easily get a, like, say, product management or a strategy role in any startup. Consulting and finance, again, you won't be bagging it off campus so easily in big firms. And also, VC money is easier to obtain as a college student. So I would say, if you think these conditions are in your favor, then just like go for it.
All right. Thank you, Atishay. And we'll have one last question for the questionnaire round. So this is directed to Naman, and I think Ayan can also chip in. I do competitive programming and I'm exploring ML. So quant being somewhat of intersection of both is becoming a natural choice. But again, research domain in econ also seems interesting and do use the above two mentioned skills. So what should I do ideally in PS1? A quant firm intern or a research PS? Can you please advise me how to proceed further?
To be honest, PS1 is not a very good place to explore either of the fields. So I think you should try for some kind of off-campus role in whichever place you get, and you have ample time to explore both of them. So you can do internships in both of the fields and decide what you like.
Yeah, same. PS1 won't exactly be a difference maker. If you do get a good firm in PS1, obviously you can write it off in your resume. But I would say, I'd like to agree with Naman, do an off-campus intern. But if you're more interested in the research side, then you can probably go for a good research station in PS1 if you genuinely want to explore that. Because having a research experience in applied economics field also helps quite a lot.
And you can also look into the field of actuarial sciences that might be related to what you are looking for. That is something, a confluence of both uh, tech, stats, and research in economics and finance.
All right. So, with this, we come to the end of our off campus talk. Firstly, I'd like to thank all of our speakers for taking out time and preparing the slides and, uh, you know, giving this talk today. I'd also like to thank everyone who joined us and uh, persisted through this talk. We would like to, uh, can you hear me? I had some bad network on my side.
Yeah.
Yeah. So once again, thank you to everyone present here. Uh, Please follow us on Instagram and LinkedIn for more of such talks from the student academic side, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you in the future as well. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys. Bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.